The human loop. There's a quiet repetition that lives beneath the surface of our lives, patterns that echo, repeat, and replay without our permission. We wake up to similar mornings, chase the same emotions, fight the same battles, and wonder why life feels like it's circling instead of moving forward. It's not that we don't want change. We crave it. We dream of it. Yet somehow, despite our desires, we find ourselves caught in the same familiar rhythms of thought, reaction, and choice. This is the human loop, the invisible cycle where old habits masquerade as progress, and repetition disguises itself as stability. It's where we keep trying to escape the same feeling using the same methods that created it. We chase love to heal loneliness, success to quiet insecurity, distraction to avoid pain. And still, the same emptiness returns, whispering in the quiet moments, nothing's changed, has it? The loop isn't madness in a clinical sense, it's unconscious living. It's the way the mind clings to the familiar, even when the familiar hurts. The mind believes that repeating what's known will lead to safety, but safety and peace are not the same. Safety is what the ego craves, peace is what the soul seeks. The ego says, do it again, maybe this time it'll work. The soul whispers, you already know this path. Choose differently. Every time we repeat what we know isn't working, we trade awareness for comfort. We choose the illusion of control over the possibility of transformation. This is why Einstein's words strike so deeply. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The line stings because it holds a mirror to how we live. It's not that we don't understand it, we feel it every time we make the same promise to ourselves and break it again. The human loop shows up everywhere, in relationships that recycle pain, in careers that drain us, in emotional habits that replay like old songs. We tell ourselves, this time will be different, but difference doesn't come from hope, it comes from change. The cycle doesn't break because we want it to, it breaks when we become aware enough to step out of it. Awareness is what turns repetition into revelation. When you finally see that you're the common thread in your own story, something begins to shift. Not in guilt, but in realization. You start to see that life isn't punishing you with repetition, it's presenting you with a lesson you haven't yet learned. Every loop is a teacher, quietly asking, will you see me this time? We live most of our lives reacting, not choosing. We respond from habit, fear, and memory. But life will keep presenting the same experiences until we respond differently. The same arguments. The same disappointments. The same sense of I've been here before. It's the universe's way of saying, until you wake up, you will keep walking in circles. Breaking the human loop begins with honesty, the willingness to look at yourself without distortion. To ask, where am I living on repeat, and listen for the answer without defending the pattern. Because what we defend, we preserve. And what we preserve, we continue to live inside of. Every pattern continues until awareness interrupts it. The moment you see your role in your own story, you no longer play it unconsciously. The loop loses power when you stop running from it and begin observing it. From that stillness, a new possibility appears, the possibility of true change. And that's where transformation begins, not by forcing a new life to appear, but by ending the unconscious repetition of the old one. The illusion of change. Change is one of the most deceiving words in the human language. We talk about it constantly, how we want it, how we're chasing it, how we've already made it happen. We reinvent our surroundings, rearrange our lives, and tell ourselves we've started over. But often, when the dust settles, we find ourselves back in the same emotional space, living the same story in a different setting. We've moved, but not transformed. The illusion of change is powerful because it feels like movement. It's activity without evolution. We think that by shifting what's outside, we've altered what's within. We change jobs, but bring the same self-doubt. We end one relationship and step into another, still carrying the same wounds. We leave the city that made us miserable, only to discover that misery was never tied to a place, it was tied to our perspective. The external can change endlessly, but until the internal shifts, nothing new can truly begin. This is the tragedy of surface transformation, the idea that doing more, achieving more, or moving faster equals progress. We tell ourselves, this time, it'll be different, but the only difference is the scenery. The story hasn't changed because the narrator hasn't changed. The same fears, insecurities, and beliefs keep rewriting the same script under a new title. It's the same movie, different backdrop. True change cannot happen by swapping circumstances, it happens when perception itself evolves. Until that happens, we remain trapped in an endless chase, trying to fix life from the outside in, rather than the inside out. It's like cleaning a mirror to change your reflection. No matter how hard you polish the surface, what's reflected remains the same until you change. The illusion of change is comforting. It gives us the satisfaction of motion without the risk of transformation. It allows us to say, "I'm trying," while still protecting our deepest patterns. But there's a quiet truth waiting beneath the noise of all our efforts. Life doesn't reward movement, it rewards awareness. Real progress isn't about going somewhere new, it's about seeing yourself differently where you are. There's nothing wrong with wanting new beginnings, but the mistake is believing that a new beginning comes from escaping. Escape creates temporary relief, not lasting growth. We can run as far as we want, but we carry ourselves wherever we go. The same thoughts, the same fears, the same emotional habits, they all follow. That's why, when the excitement fades, the same restlessness returns. It's not the world that repeats, it's us. To step beyond the illusion of change, you have to ask one courageous question: what am I trying to escape by moving? The answer is rarely external. Most of the time, we're running from the discomfort of facing ourselves. Yet the truth is, transformation only happens when we stop running. When we stand still long enough to feel, to see, to understand what we've been avoiding, awareness replaces illusion. And when awareness enters, change begins, not as an act of will, but as a natural unfolding of clarity. The illusion fades when you realize that nothing outside can change the patterns you refuse to see inside. The world mirrors your state of being. If your inner world remains the same, the outer world will keep reflecting it, no matter how many times you rearrange it. When you finally recognize that, you stop chasing and start awakening. You stop escaping and start evolving. And that's the moment where the idea of change transforms into its true meaning, a return to the authentic self beneath all the repetition. Awareness, the turning point. Awareness is the quiet revolution that changes everything. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply sees. And in that act of seeing, the unconscious loses its grip. The loops, illusions, and repeated patterns we once felt trapped in begin to unravel, not because we fought them, but because we finally recognized them. Awareness is the beginning of freedom, not the dramatic kind, but the kind that starts in silence and grows in truth. Most people think change begins with action. But real change begins with awareness. Action without awareness is just motion. It may look productive, but it often leads us back to where we started. Awareness, on the other hand, transforms motion into meaning. It's the pause before reaction, the light that exposes the roots of behavior. Once you see why you do what you do, the pattern can no longer operate in the dark. It loses its power because it can't hide behind ignorance. To become aware is to become intimate with yourself. It's noticing the emotions that rise when no one is watching, the thoughts that guide your choices, the impulses that repeat your history. It's asking, why did I react that way, instead of defending your reaction. It's realizing that every conflict, disappointment, or failure carries a hidden reflection of yourself. Awareness doesn't judge, it observes. And through that observation, transformation quietly begins. The turning point happens when you stop trying to change your life and start seeing your life clearly. Seeing isn't passive, it's the most active form of understanding. Because when you see your patterns fully, when you see the fear behind your control, the loneliness behind your need for attention, the insecurity beneath your ambition, you no longer identify with them. You become the witness, not the prisoner. That distance creates space, and in that space, freedom takes root. Awareness is uncomfortable at first. It exposes what we've buried. It asks us to face the truth without the protection of excuses. But discomfort is not punishment, it's purification. It's the burning away of illusion. The pain that arises from awareness is the pain of waking up, not the pain of being broken. It's life saying, this is what's real. Can you stay with it long enough to understand it? When you begin to live with awareness, the external world stops being the enemy. People, events, and challenges become mirrors, not obstacles. They reflect your inner landscape, showing you what still needs healing, what still asks for love, what still seeks understanding. Life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens for you, an ongoing dialogue between your consciousness and existence itself. This is why awareness is the true turning point. Because before awareness, we act from conditioning. After awareness, we act from choice. Before awareness, we repeat. After awareness, we create. Awareness doesn't instantly erase old habits, but it transforms your relationship with them. You begin to see the space between who you were and who you're becoming. And in that space, your true power returns, the power to respond differently, to see clearly, and to live consciously. When awareness deepens, you realize that transformation is not about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you are beneath all the conditioning. The moment you see clearly, you stop chasing the illusion of change and start living from the center of truth. The same life, the same world, the same people, but everything feels different, because you finally are breaking the cycle. Awareness gives us sight, but choice gives us direction. Once you see the loop, you stand at a crossroads, continue unconsciously or act with intention. Breaking the cycle isn't about fighting your past, it's about no longer feeding it. It begins the moment you decide to respond differently, even if everything in you wants to fall back into the familiar. It's a quiet rebellion against your own conditioning, one choice at a time. Every pattern we repeat has a purpose. It once protected us. The avoidance, the control, the overthinking, the need for approval, these were not flaws, they were defenses. They helped us survive a version of life that we didn't yet know how to face. But what once protected us can later imprison us. Growth happens when we outgrow the survival patterns that no longer serve who we're becoming. Breaking the cycle means learning to pause between impulse and action. When you feel triggered, instead of reacting from the old narrative, you breathe, observe, and choose differently. It doesn't always feel heroic. Often it feels awkward, small, or even insignificant. But in those small moments, the pattern loses power. Every conscious pause weakens the old program. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, you rewrite the story of who you are. Real change doesn't arrive like a thunderclap, it unfolds through repetition of presence. The same way unconsciousness builds the loop, awareness builds liberation. You learn to meet the same situations with a new mind, a new heart, a new energy. You may face the same challenge, but this time, you respond from clarity, not fear. And that difference, though invisible at first, begins to alter everything. Breaking the cycle also means embracing discomfort. Because when you stop feeding old patterns, your mind and body will resist. The familiar will call you back with the promise of safety. The past will whisper that nothing ever changes. But you'll know that discomfort is not a sign you're failing, it's proof that you're shifting. Growth always feels uncomfortable because it stretches the edges of who you've been. Sometimes breaking the cycle requires solitude. When you stop participating in patterns, some connections will fade. You'll outgrow people, habits, and environments that once felt like home. That's not loss, it's alignment. It's life rearranging itself around your new vibration. The emptiness that follows is not a void, it's space being made for something real to enter. And perhaps the most profound part of breaking the cycle is forgiveness. Forgiveness for the versions of yourself that didn't know better. Forgiveness for the people who reflected your pain back to you. Forgiveness for the time you spent repeating instead of living. Forgiveness turns awareness into compassion, and compassion turns pain into wisdom. You begin to see that even your mistakes were part of the awakening process. To break the cycle is to become conscious of your own evolution, to watch yourself growing in real time. You start noticing that what once triggered you now teaches you. What once controlled you now humbles you. What once defined you now frees you. You realize that life isn't asking you to be perfect, it's asking you to be awake. And every moment of awareness, every act of choice, every breath of honesty, that's the real transformation. The cycle doesn't end because you escaped it, it ends because you outgrew it. The cost of comfort. Comfort is one of the most subtle traps in human existence. It feels safe, familiar, and predictable, but it also quietly drains our potential. Comfort convinces us that peace and stagnation are the same thing. It whispers, "Stay here, it's easier," even when a part of us knows that here is slowly killing our spirit. The cost of comfort is invisible at first, but over time, it becomes the weight of unlived life. We are creatures of habit, wired to repeat what feels familiar. The brain loves patterns, it associates them with safety. Even when those patterns cause pain, the mind prefers a known pain to an unknown possibility. That's why so many people stay in unfulfilling jobs, relationships, or versions of themselves. They're not weak, they are simply loyal to the comfort of the known. The unknown feels like a threat, but in truth, it's the only place where growth exists. Comfort numbs. It lulls us into believing that avoidance equals peace. But the peace of comfort isn't true peace, it's a kind of quiet suffocation. You can feel it when your days start to blend together, when you stop being curious, when your dreams become memories of who you used to be. It's a slow erosion of vitality disguised as stability. The tragedy is not that people settle, it's that they forget they have the power not to. The cost of comfort is paid in missed awakenings. Every time we choose the familiar over the unknown, we trade potential for predictability. We trade expansion for security. We trade growth for the illusion of control. Life, however, is not meant to be controlled, it's meant to be experienced. The greatest transformations happen not when we feel ready, but when we dare to step beyond what feels safe. Breaking free from comfort doesn't mean rejecting ease, it means distinguishing between comfort that nourishes and comfort that numbs. Rest, reflection, and safety are essential, they recharge the soul. But comfort that silences your curiosity or keeps you repeating what no longer serves you, that's not rest, it's resistance. Growth begins when you stop confusing safety with fulfillment. There's always a price for comfort, and it's often your authenticity. The longer you stay in what doesn't challenge you, the more you forget who you are beyond the pattern. Your potential begins to shrink to fit the walls of your routine. And when your life becomes smaller than your spirit, suffering inevitably follows, not loud suffering, but the quiet ache of knowing you were meant for more. The truth is, life will always pull you toward expansion. If you ignore that pull, it will come as restlessness. If you resist it, it will arrive as discomfort. And if you deny it for too long, it will appear as crisis. The universe has a way of pushing us out of the nests we've built for too long. What looks like loss or chaos is often just life saying, you've grown too big for this comfort. The cost of comfort is too high when it asks you to betray your own becoming. Growth demands courage, the courage to leave what no longer fits, to walk into uncertainty, to trust that what's ahead will meet you where you are. It's terrifying, yes, but that's how you know you're alive. The fear you feel is the same energy that once birthed you into this world. It's not there to stop you, it's there to wake you. The courage to choose differently. Every transformation begins with a single decision, the decision to choose differently. Not a grand, dramatic declaration, but a quiet commitment to no longer abandon yourself. Choosing differently means standing at the same crossroads you've stood at before and taking the path you once avoided. It's the moment when awareness turns into action, when understanding becomes embodiment. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the willingness to move despite it. Fear doesn't disappear when you decide to change, it often grows louder. It tries to protect you by pulling you back into what's familiar. But courage doesn't silence fear, it walks beside it. The difference between staying stuck and breaking free is not confidence, it's commitment. You don't need to feel ready, you need to feel honest. Honesty with yourself creates the foundation for courage to rise. Choosing differently means no longer living by your old story. The story that says you're not enough, that change is too late, that the past defines you. It means writing a new narrative, one built on awareness, integrity, and self-respect. And that begins by making choices that align with truth rather than comfort. Each time you choose truth, even when it's uncomfortable, you strengthen the muscle of courage. Over time, that courage becomes your new baseline. True courage is quiet. It's waking up one more time after failure. It's showing kindness instead of defense. It's choosing silence instead of reaction. It's saying no when your heart is tired of saying yes to what hurts. Courage lives in the small decisions, the ones no one sees but that slowly rewrite your destiny. Every time you choose differently, you shift your vibration, your trajectory, and your relationship with life itself. But courage also requires patience. Because transformation doesn't happen in a straight line, it unfolds in layers. You may fall back into old habits, but that doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're learning. The key is not to judge the fall but to recognize it faster each time. Awareness will always bring you back. Growth is not about perfection, it's about persistence. The fact that you're aware of your loop means you're already breaking it. The courage to choose differently also means surrendering control. Real change is not about forcing outcomes, it's about aligning with truth and trusting where it leads. You can't predict the path ahead, but you can choose to walk it consciously. Every act of courage deepens your connection with life, because courage is the language of authenticity. It's how your soul tells the world, I'm here, and I'm ready to live fully. When you begin choosing differently, you start experiencing life differently. The same situations no longer hold the same power. The same triggers no longer define your reactions. You feel the shift, not because life got easier, but because you became more present. You stopped living from fear and started living from freedom. That's the essence of transformation, not becoming someone new, but reclaiming the courage to be who you truly are. Living with awareness. Living with awareness is not a one-time awakening, it's a lifelong practice. It's the art of returning, again and again, to the present moment with honesty and openness. It's the willingness to see yourself clearly without judgment and to meet each experience, pleasant or painful, as a teacher. Awareness doesn't promise a perfect life, it offers a truthful one. And in truth, there is peace. When you begin living with awareness, life slows down in the best way. You start noticing the subtleties, the space between thoughts, the tone behind words, the feeling beneath reactions. You begin to respond rather than react. Conversations become deeper. Choices become intentional. The noise of life quiets, not because the world changes, but because you're no longer lost in its chaos. You start living in life, not against it. Awareness is like a light that keeps expanding. The more you see, the more you understand, and the more compassion naturally arises. You start realizing that everyone else is also caught in their own loops, acting from pain, fear, and longing. Instead of judgment, you begin to feel empathy. You stop taking things personally because you see beyond behavior into the shared human condition. Awareness connects you, even when the world feels divided. Living with awareness also means embracing impermanence. You understand that nothing is meant to stay the same, not your emotions, not your relationships, not even your identity. And that realization, though humbling, becomes liberating. You stop clinging and start flowing. You trust that endings make space for beginnings, and that loss often reveals what truly matters. You no longer chase permanence, you cultivate presence. When you live with awareness, ordinary moments become sacred. Washing the dishes becomes meditation. A walk becomes communion. Silence becomes a sanctuary. You begin to experience joy not as excitement but as stillness, an inner warmth that doesn't depend on circumstance. You realize that peace isn't something to achieve, it's something to notice. It's always been there, waiting beneath the noise of wanting and resisting. Awareness doesn't remove challenges, it transforms your relationship with them. Pain still visits, but suffering lessens because you no longer resist it. Fear still whispers, but it no longer commands. You start trusting life's intelligence more than your own control. Even chaos becomes a kind of teacher, revealing where you still hold tension or denial. You stop asking, "Why me?" and begin asking, "What is this showing me?" That shift changes everything. To live with awareness is to live awake, to meet life consciously, to participate in it fully. It's to recognize that every moment offers you a choice, to repeat or to evolve, to numb or to feel, to react or to respond. Awareness keeps you humble, grounded, and free. And perhaps the greatest gift of awareness is this: it teaches you that you are not the loop, not the fear, not even the story. You are the one who sees it all, and that realization is the beginning of true peace. Choosing life anew. To choose life anew is to stop existing on autopilot and start participating in your own becoming. It's the moment you realize that awareness, courage, and choice are not separate steps but a continuous movement, a living rhythm that keeps you aligned with truth. Choosing life means saying yes to the unknown, to change, to growth, to the constant unfolding of who you are becoming beyond the patterns that once defined you. When you choose life consciously, you stop waiting for permission from others, from timing, from circumstance. You stop saying someday and begin saying now. You no longer live as a reaction to the past or a projection of the future. You begin living as presence itself, fully here, fully awake. That's what it means to truly be alive, to meet each moment with openness, to see it as an opportunity to experience existence rather than escape it. Choosing life doesn't mean rejecting your past. It means honoring it for what it taught you while no longer letting it decide who you are. It means seeing that every loop, every heartbreak, every repetition was not wasted time but preparation. The lessons that once felt like prisons become the stepping stones toward awareness. You begin to thank what once broke you because it led you here, to this moment of seeing clearly. Every day offers you a choice, to continue unconsciously or to live awake. Awareness gives you the power to choose again and again, to return to truth whenever you drift into the familiar. You may still stumble, still repeat, still forget. But now, you remember faster. You realign quicker. You forgive deeper. And that is the quiet grace of awareness. It doesn't demand perfection, only presence. Choosing life anew means embracing responsibility for your inner world. It's recognizing that your peace, your freedom, your joy are not given, they are created. They are cultivated through awareness, sustained through courage, and deepened through authenticity. Life responds to how awake you are within it. The more conscious you become, the more alive everything feels. Even the simplest moments begin to shimmer with meaning. In the end, the quote that began this reflection, Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is not just a warning. It's an invitation. An invitation to wake up, to see, to choose differently. It reminds us that the loops we live in are not punishments but opportunities for awareness. Each repetition is life asking, will you awaken this time? Will you choose differently now? And when you finally do, when you choose awareness over illusion, courage over fear, and truth over comfort, you stop existing as a reaction and start living as creation. That's the moment you step out of the loop and into life itself. Not the life you were told to live, but the one that's been waiting for you all along, raw, real, awake, and infinitely alive.